Amigos, una organización en el estado de Minnesota invita a toda la comunidad latina a ser partícipes y dejar de tomar un viaje en auto durante el mes de septiembre. Así es tan solo un viaje en coche antes del día 21 de septiembre. Recordemos que el día 22 de septiembre es el Día Mundial sin Auto. En lugar de ello, podemos caminar hacia nuestras compras, el supermercado, tomar la bicicleta, ir al parque o tal vez tomar el autobús hacia nuestro trabajo. Para hablar un poco más sobre este tema y hacer la invitación más interesante para todos ustedes, vámonos directamente a la ciudad de Minneapolis, donde la joven Reina López nos espera por ahí. Va llegando para platicar de este tema y de esta invitación. Vamos a conocerla.
Hola, mi nombre es Reina López, soy originaria de Monterrey, México y vivo en Minnesota desde el 2018. El medio de transporte que utilizo más en lugar del coche es la bicicleta.
Gracias por la presentación, Reina. Tal vez puedes comenzar platicándonos cómo comenzaste a utilizar la bicicleta como un medio de transporte alternativo.
Yo comencé a utilizar este medio de transporte en Minnesota porque en casa solo teníamos un auto y mi esposo lo utilizaba para ir a trabajar y descubrí que había buena infraestructura para utilizar la bicicleta como medio de transporte y llegar a muchos lugares, al supermercado, ir a un café, reunirme con mis amigos. Por eso empecé a utilizar la bicicleta como medio de transporte alterno y hoy en día lo sigo utilizando. Y eso mismo me permitió crear un grupo junto con unos amigos llamado Latinos en Bici Minnesota.
Muy bien. Cuéntanos qué beneficios en cuestión de traslado, de conexión, te ofrece a ti el andar en tu bicicleta.
Una de las razones por la que utilizo la bicicleta como medio de transporte es porque puedo llegar a muchísimos lugares que en coche no podríamos llegar. Podríamos llegar a supermercados, podemos llegar a cafés. Durante los días con más tráfico es una manera más rápida de llegar a muchos de los lugares. Y también, bueno, utilizar la bicicleta, yo utilizo la bicicleta para hacer viajes. Entonces monto todo en mi bicicleta, hago viajes de bikepacking con mi bicicleta, he llegado a lugares súper remotos donde solamente puedes llegar o caminando en bicicleta y bueno, con distancias muy, muy largas, pues lo mejor es utilizar la bicicleta en lugar de un coche.
Debe de ser muy padre tener el tiempo, relajarte, tener tiempo para ti misma durante estos traslados en bicicleta, Reina.
Bueno, cuando utilizo la bicicleta para llegar a mi trabajo, a una reunión, aprovecho el tiempo de traslado como para relajarme, prepararme mentalmente de qué es lo que sigue en mi día. Y bueno, cuando termino mi día laboral y utilizo mi bici para regresar a mi casa, utilizo ese tiempo de traslado para relajarme, pensar qué es lo que voy a cenar, planificar el resto de mi día de una manera más tranquila.
Regresamos con Reina y tenemos una pregunta muy importante. Reina, ¿le has puesto algún nombre como otras personas? ¿Le has puesto algún nombre a tu bicicleta, a tu bici?
Bueno, no, yo no le pongo nombre a mi bicicleta, pero cuido mucho mi bicicleta.
Muy bien. ¿Qué recomendarías a alguien que tal vez está interesado en utilizar un medio de transporte alterno, en este caso la bicicleta, pero aún como que no se anima, no se avienta? ¿Qué le dirías?
Mi consejo para alguien que quiere utilizar la bicicleta como medio de transporte alterno como primera vez es: conoce bien tu bicicleta, planifica bien la ruta y calcula el tiempo. Siempre deja 10 o 15 minutos extra en caso de que tengas que pararte porque no sabías bien la ruta. Siempre trae un cambio de ropa extra para llegar a donde sea que vas a llegar, a la oficina si vas a trabajar. Una de las cosas que es muy importante es hacer un pre-ride, conocer bien el lugar por donde vas a hacer tu commute todos los días. Entonces, si es la primera vez que lo vas a hacer, mi sugerencia es que hagas un mapa. Puedes utilizar Google Maps, ya hay un montón de aplicaciones para planificar tu ruta.
Recuerda, los minnesotanos eliminaremos un viaje en coche durante el mes de septiembre. Así es, solo un viaje individual en coche. Comprométete hoy en carfreemsp.com.
Amigos, unámonos a este esfuerzo con Reina y toda la comunidad antes del 22 de septiembre.
Quiero invitarte en este mes de septiembre a no utilizar el coche. Utiliza otro medio de transporte al menos una vez. Conviértete en un héroe sin coche.
Muy bien, pues yo personalmente me comprometo y Reina, definitivamente, gracias por la invitación, definitivamente eres una héroe sin coche. La invitación es para todos ustedes. Visiten por favor el sitio web carfreemsp.com en pantalla para conocer más sobre esta invitación e inmediatamente tomar acción, comprometernos a no usar nuestro coche una vez, aunque sea antes del 21 de septiembre. carfreemsp.com. Continuamos en el Minnesota de hoy. Muchas gracias.
Recuerda, los minnesotanos eliminaremos un viaje en coche durante el mes de septiembre. Así es, solo un viaje individual en coche. En lugar de eso, puedes ir en bicicleta, tomar el autobús, caminar, incluso compartir el coche con un amigo. Comprométete hoy en carfreemsp.com. Incluso podrías ganar un atractivo premio. Visita carfreemsp.com.
Meet leaders in the Hispanic community with the series Yo Un Latino en Minnesota. Produced by M Latino Media.
Minnesota Latinos are very much a part of this community. Latinos have contributed to the Minnesota community in so many different ways. We saw as the first generation of Latinos that came here, many of them contributed in opening up new businesses, very entrepreneurial spirit. We saw it also in the new generations that are coming through, second and third generation like myself, who have had the opportunity to get more education. I was fortunate enough to be the first one in my family to go to college and then on to law school. I'm the first Latino judge, in fact, to be on the Minnesota Court of Appeals. I was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, in an area commonly referred to as the West Side. My grandparents were migrant workers. They immigrated from Guadalajara, Mexico, and they sought the land of opportunity. And that's why they came to America, to provide an opportunity for themselves and for their children and their grandchildren. Latinos tend to be very loyal, hardworking, driven, and willing to give back to the community and contribute as professionals, doctors, engineers, lawyers, and even judges. And that impact has been seen not only through the Twin Cities, but throughout the entire state of Minnesota as our community becomes members of Greater Minnesota as well. And that impact has been very, very profound and very positive. We are part of the community here, and we are delighted to be a part of this community. Minnesota has a rich history of including and welcoming and accepting people from all over the world, from Mexican immigrants who became Mexican Americans, like myself and my family, but also other communities as well. The Vietnamese community in the 70s, the Hmong community, Laotian, and many, many other communities. Minnesota is going to continue to grow and become more diverse. And as our children grow up, they're going to be more diverse as well. There's strength in that diversity. And it's my hope, it's my sincere hope going forward that Minnesota continues to welcome that diversity. I've been fortunate, and our family has been fortunate, to have been embraced by the Minnesota community here. We need to continue to take advantage of this diversity. It is a strength for us. It provides different perspectives for us to be able to figure out how to solve all the problems that we face here in Minnesota. And working together and hearing all the various voices, just as we have for decades. We're Latinos, but we're Minnesotans as well. And we're very proud of both aspects of who we are. My name is Peter Reyes, and I am proud to be a Latino. I'm proud to be a Minnesotan, and I'm proud to be a Latino here in Minnesota.
Meet leaders in the Hispanic community with the series Yo Un Latino en Minnesota. Produced by M Latino Media.
I came up with the term sotarriqueña, Soto Rican, because I'm proud of my Latinidad as a Boricua. Yo me crié en el west side de San Pablo, so I was born in St. Louis Park and spent 2 days of my life there, and then raised on the west side of St. Paul, the first Latino community in Minnesota, to Boricua, Puerto Rican parents that migrated, by way of Puerto Rico, New York City, and then boom, Minnesota in the 70s. And I think about the city, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Twin Cities, okay, that's how I have my heart set, like a Twins hat, right? My first memories comes from café con leche being brewed in my grandmother's apartment in St. Paul, to the catering business that she had, making pasteles and pastelillos and bacalaitos. Puerto Rico nació en mí. Even though I wasn't born there, it was born in me through the music. See the migration of more Latinos and the population rise and the movement of the Latinx community is so beautiful, because I remember when that wasn't there, and I remember dreaming for this moment. The millennial Latinx, Latino, Latina community is at the prime of its time. Like, this is what the migration of Latinos have been working for. We are seeing leaderships in Congress as Latinx. We are seeing educators grow. We are seeing the next revolution from media and music and arts grow into something that we're comfortable being labeled. If we're gonna choose to be called something, it has to come from us. So, you have all of these words, Hispanic, Latino, that opened up the doors for us to be, this is what we want to be called. Those all have patterns of the census, but it's not very inclusive to a lot of different identities, whether and supportive as well as those that don't want to be recognized as a gender. I'm cool with being called a Latina. I'm cool being called, because I refer to she and her, but I also recognize that that's not representative of some of my peers, and we often come together within Latinx and open up the doors for Afro-Latinx and indigenous Latinx, and being able to identify as how we want to be and how we should all respect one another. Well, my mother plays that prime role in my life. I'm very fortunate and bendecida, blessed to have a mother who's been a good mom and raised me with values of culture. But she came here at 19 years old to Minnesota when there was not a large Latino community. and specifically Puerto Ricans. And her and my father came, and she led into the 80s, and she became the first Latina appointed by the governor of Minnesota to a state office where she worked as a director of equal opportunity. And so I was born, in her while she was working in an office that no one looked like her. Nobody there was speaking, the languages that come from, and no one was really representing the issues that needed to be served amongst her and her peers, right? So that influence of growing up with a strong Latina mother who not only, was working for her family, but working for the derechos of Latina women in general, that became that's something that you're alongside, you're being raised in there. So she founded, one of the founders of Casa Esperanza, had served on so many different boards and founded the performing arts school that I was raised in. It was the momentum of her and growing up around, and her not allowing anything shut those doors of opportunities for us and our gente, which engraved in me, but through music. She's not a musician and an artist, but the influences of, my tia, who is a singer, was born in Puerto Rico and raised in New York and sang jazz nationally. That highly influenced me. The woman, my abuela, raised me, because as you know, in Latinos, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. And so when I think about who are the women that influenced me, I think about it being just in my household, but outside as well. I mean, you had the platforms of Celia Cruz on stage, and the platforms of La India, who invited me to sing with her when I was 7 years old at the North Rob. And you think about Gloria Estefan, those people, Selena, right, in the entertainment world. But then you also think about activism, and you think about Antonia Pantoja as an educator. You think about, Esmeralda Santiago as a writer, and Sandra Cisneros. You think about the Lolita Lebrons who stood up for our people. Those women were influential in my life because my mother and my family members educated us that. This wasn't something that back then we could Google or we could pick a book out of our school library in Minnesota, So the influence of my mom, she's my hero. I mean, my next album it's dedicated to her, and it's named Sasa, which is her nickname. My name is Maria Isa. Soy una boricua Latinx de Minnesota. Huepa, you betcha.
Meet leaders in the Hispanic community with the series Yo Un Latino en Minnesota. Produced by M Latino Media.
My Latino identity is very important. So I think the Latino experience and identity is not fixed in place in our country or in our state. I think it's constantly evolving. It reaches into its past, but it also has a strong desire to create new realities. Carlos Mariani is a state representative in the state of Minnesota, a Latino, a father, a son, a person who cares about people in our state. And I've served here for 32 years. I think the thing I like most about Minnesota and Minnesotans is a level of kindness, of curiosity, a spirit of building things and creating space. Doesn't always happen everywhere in the state, but it happens enough that it makes me really appreciate the culture that we have in our state. Latinos are a part of this state and this state's history, are a critical component, part of this state's success, and that it has been for many generations. I think it's really important that all Minnesotans understand the long relationship and presence of Latinos in the state of Minnesota. On the west side where I live, My neighbors are third, fourth, fifth generation Mexicanos whose great-grandparents came to this state over 100 years ago to make sure that they can earn a decent living, and in the process of doing that, strengthening the agricultural and manufacturing base of our state. So it's a powerful relationship between Latinos and the rest of the state, and it's important that all Minnesotans acknowledge and respect and honor the incredible sacrifices and ways in which Latinos have been involved in the development of this powerful state. In Minnesota, we're not typically, quote unquote, a Latino state. We're not California, Florida, but we have a very dynamic community here that often, many times, has been made invisible and not seen. And so part of my role, part of my responsibility is to make sure that our people are seen, we are heard, and we're incorporated into the big decisions that are making because we are a part of this state. My involvement in community engagements really began at a very young age. I think first through a process of being aware of things that were happening around me and trying to understand them. The riots in 1968 in Chicago after Dr. King was assassinated, I was 11 years old. And it made an incredible impression on my mind then as my neighborhood literally burned down to the ground. People were killed, a lot of violence, and I remember thinking, I need to understand what's going on and getting involved to make sure that bad things wouldn't continue to happen. In my whole life, from a young person all the way through college, I was always involved in community dynamics with that spirit, that sense of responsibility. As a young organizer on the West Side, did some work involving gangs and organizing positive youth activities, and that I think really attracted Macalester College to me. My relationship with the state of Minnesota really began at the end of my high school years in Chicago, where I grew up. I was recruited by Macalester College to attend in this state that was far away from Illinois, but came and fell in love with this wonderful state. My work has always involved reaching out and building relationships with Latinos is critically important for our success. Accepting and working and acknowledging the differences that exist among Latinos, among Hispanos. We're a very diverse community here. Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and Central Americans. For many, many generations, these communities were not involved in any of the decisions making our laws in our state. So part of my role is build strong relationships to make sure that folks are involved, they're informed, and that they're taking part in being heard and giving advice to their government, and therefore participate much more strongly as citizens. The best recommendation I would offer for my fellow Latinos looking to be involved in public service and serving in similar ways as I have is be part of a community, be involved in what's happening there, in building goodness, and out of that begins the process, I believe, of serving well in public. My name is Carlos Mariani Rosa. I'm a proud Latino, and I'm a member of the Minnesota House of Representatives.
Meet leaders in the Hispanic community with the series Yo, un Latino en Minnesota. Produced by M Latino Media.
Le pido mucho a Dios que me dé fuerza, que me dé toda la sabiduría para poder transmitirle mediante la música la felicidad y la esperanza a todos los que vienen a vernos. Me presigno y voy directo al escenario. Soy Nachito Herrera, orgulloso de ser latino y orgulloso de vivir en Minnesota. Soy graduado del Instituto Superior de Arte, es como la Universidad de Música de La Habana, Cuba. Siempre para mí fue un reto poder probar que la música era una sola y por eso es que en todos mis conciertos siempre trato de mezclar lo mismo, la música clásica con la música cubana, con diferentes estilos. Y bueno, nada, ha sido una carrera desde el punto de vista profesional satisfactoria. He tenido la posibilidad de viajar con muchas orquestas cubanas y tocar en varios escenarios del mundo. Tuve la oportunidad de venir a trabajar aquí a las Twin Cities, a ser director musical de una obra que se llamó Los Rumbaleros en el History Theater en San Pablo, tributo a la primera familia de músicos mexicanos que decidieron instalarse en el West Side de St. Paul, y después recibí la invitación del presidente de la escuela de McPhail Center for Music para ser miembro de la facultad de piano, y bueno, las cosas se fueron dando una detrás de la otra y ya ha sido un periodo de casi 14 años tratando de adaptarnos a este frío fuerte de Minnesota, pero bueno, aquí estamos. Que la comunidad latina en Minnesota se está haciendo fuerte por día. Le estamos dejando saber al mundo que aún en esta parte que es un poco fría, siempre van a poder tener el calor, la cultura y la humildad y el deseo de trabajar fuerte de toda nuestra comunidad latina, no importa de qué país vengamos. Creo que nosotros tenemos el gran compromiso, afortunadamente, de ser la cara que muestra la verdadera razón y el objetivo de por qué nosotros como inmigrantes venimos a este gran país. Nuestra gran leyenda de Cuba y del mundo y de Minnesota. Yo he tenido el gran honor y creo que en estos momentos soy parte de, ya somos como familia, el gran señor Tony Oliva. Ha sido una representación muy fuerte en la comunidad, no solo cubana, en la comunidad latina. Tengo también que mencionar al señor Miguel Ramos, que ha sido de muy gran valor para la comunidad, y por supuesto nunca se nos puede olvidar mencionar, y yo lo llamo a él el papá de los latinos de Minnesota, el señor Mario Duarte. Mi nombre es Nachito Herrera, soy latino y vivo en Minnesota.